My mothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Today, inshallah, we will be continuing our discussion that we have been having throughout this month of Muharram. And the topic that we have been talking about is called building a peaceful home. And we talked about why this is important, why especially in today's day and age it is more important than ever to create a safe haven, not only for ourselves but our families. And we started by talking about that we need to start with the right intention, and then we need to choose a strong foundation. And we said that the foundation the strongest of foundations is the foundation of taqwa, or God consciousness, the idea that when we do that, we are building on everlasting principles. We're not going with the winds of time, so to speak. And when we do that, that is our best hope for creating a strong home that can withstand the climate change, and I mean that in many different ways, right, that is going on, culturally and all of that. And then we started talking about what are some of the walls of safety, the walls of trust, the walls of commitment. And today, inshallah, we will be continuing that conversation. And now I want to start talking about the pillars of the home. Okay, and the verse that we're going to be talking about is from Surah Rum, and a verse that we are all familiar with, where Allah says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Okay, the Shadi card ayat, right? We are all familiar with this, and normally we only hear it ever at milads for weddings, right? But today, inshallah, we will look at it much more in depth. And just a few words of reflection on this verse, right? First of all, he says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ. It is one of the signs of God. It is one of his ayat, what? That he has created from amongst you, people like yourselves, azwaj, spouses. And he put between you Muwaddah and Rahma. And we are not going to be I'm going to do my best to stick to the Arabic, and I'll tell you why. So he put between us Muwaddah and Rahma. And so in a sense that these two are gifts from Allah to start the family. It is a gift that the couple gets when they get married, and it lays a very strong foundation for their married life, right? Then he goes on to say, Inna fi zalik, these are verses, or these are signs for those who reflect. So right within the ayat, it is asking us to reflect. Reflect on what it means, what is Muwaddah, what is Rahma, and why are these things so important, right? What Mufassirin tell us, and what science is showing us now, that the Muwaddah and Rahma are actually the glue that holds the couple together. And, with that, the family. Now, again, it's one of the mysteries, isn't it? Somebody you don't know, you have, very little, you realize you have very little in common after you get married. When you are in the engagement period, you think, you're exactly alike, right? So, what is this feeling of Muwaddah? So today, inshallah, we'll only focus on Muwaddah, and in a later session, we will talk about what Rahma means. So first we will talk a little bit about Muwaddah. We will talk about what does the current science, psychology tell us about the whole love and bonding process, and how do we feel and express this feeling of Muwaddah? In other words, how can we grow love? And that's hopefully going to be the take home, right? That how can we grow love within our homes? And I'm using those words very intentionally because, in the West, currently the concept is that you fall out in love and you fall out of love, right? And, very amazingly, what science is telling us that's completely false. That people don't fall in and out of love, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So first, let's talk about what is Muwaddah. For the Arabic words for love are many. And, mystics and scholars tell us that, let's just talk about 4 to begin with, right? The first one is just called hawa. Hawa means we know what it is, right? Desire. And this is what we would call in English lust maybe, or attraction, or the initial physical attraction that you feel about another person, right? Then there is something called hub, right? We've all heard the word hub, where the word muhabbat in Urdu comes from. And again, this idea of muhabbat is something you can't hear. Oh, sorry. The word muhabbat or hub means that the person has no volition. It is something that happens without somebody's control. Like you fall in love with someone, that would be muhabbat, right? And then there is something called ishq. Now, anyone who watches Indian movies knows all about what ishq is, right? What is ishq? Sorry? Blinding love, isn't it? It is something that you can't, when it's very interesting when you watch young couples, when they're in the courtship period, they can't think about anything else and they see stars in the daytime and they can't sleep and they can't eat. That would be, but very interestingly, what, where the term derives from is called, is climbing, thorned, convoluted, blind weed. What does this mean? That it wraps around its object. The thing that comes to mind is, I don't know if you've ever had a problem in your garden with dogweed. Do you know what dogweed is? These long things which literally suffocate trees. It's a big problem actually in Ontario. They're killing forests. That's how dangerous they are, right? So that's kind of a thing that it wraps itself around the object to the extent that you cannot think straight. You're blinded by ishq, right? Now, on the other hand, what is Muwaddah? Muwaddah comes from the root word wad. Wad means what? Constant or persistent faithfulness in love. That's one of the meanings. Many scholars explain it in many different ways. Some people say it means abundant love, but most scholars would agree that one of the characteristics of Muwaddah is to have love that is expressed, things that you do something about. And it has a concept of being constant and faithful. What does that mean? It means that this is the only type of love, at least from what I could understand from my very brief reading on this, is that it has some sort of action or pro-action on our part. So when Allah tells us, and by the way, we know that He is Al-Wadud, right? The ever-loving. And again, what the Mufassirin tell us is that His expression of love is everywhere. He's created everything for us, and that is based on love, and that is His expression. So when we are talking about the fact that Allah has put this kind of love, it means that this is an initial gift. It's like a seed. But the seed has to be nurtured. It does not mean that it will guarantee you a lifetime of happiness if you have not, when you put in a seed, that's whatever comes out is Allah's grace and blessing. But you do have to do something. You have to create the environment, you have to nurture it, you have to give it fertilization and water and all of that, right? So Wadudu or Muwaddah is that kind of love. It is love that grows between people, that is present. It's a gift of God, but that gift has to be nurtured. Does that make sense? So it's not that kind of effortless love that we see in Hollywood and Bollywood, right? Now, very interestingly, just a very brief history on marriage and love in Islam. In the West, the concept of love and marriage going together, there used to be this old show, right? Love and, what was it called? Love and Marriage, right? To go together like a horse and carriage. That's actually a very, very modern concept. Even till 200 years ago, love had nothing to do with marriage. People got married for many different reasons, but not for love, right? And anyway, so to put it very briefly, Islam has always paired the two together. Because that, when things get challenging, that is what keeps you bonded with each other. And now what research is telling us, this whole idea about attachment and bonding, that, when you bond with someone, and again, it's literally a miracle of God, right? That children we can understand, they come from us, we've given birth to them, they're so much like us, they have at least half our DNA and all that, right? But this individual who seems to trigger us, pushes all the buttons, and who, we didn't know at all, we had no shared history as such, to have that kind of bonding is literally a miracle, right? So what does, the current research of love tell us? Very, very interesting. in the old days, again, this was this idea, you fall in love, you fall out of love, but there's this beautiful book, it's called Love 2.0. I don't know if anyone's come across it, but it's very, very interesting. So Barbara Fredrickson, who's actually one of the most famous positive psychologists today, she says that, you need to upgrade your notion of love. And she says that, this idea that love is something present and it absent is completely wrong. She said love is simply shared positive connection with another human being. And she says it could be with anyone. So, you obviously the more you practice it at home, it will grow, but you could have two strangers. And that's why, again, we need to be so careful of boundaries as well, right? That if you have two people who share emotional, just two positive, a positive moment together. She calls it micro moments of positivity resonance, very fancy term, but simply it means, say you and I, we're looking at a sunset together and we really connect, we both connect to the sunset and we both share that special moment. She said that's a moment of love, okay? So the good news is that it's very easy to grow love. That's the good news, right? The bad news is that it's very fleeting. It's not something that you can just, she said, just as you can't get healthy by eating a broccoli once a year, you cannot grow love by doing something or sharing something once. You have to continuously replenish it, okay? So what else does she say? That, when you share this moment of connection with another human being, it's very, very interesting. And this is what we mean by ayat of God. When we do that, it shows, now because brain scans have progressed to this extent, we can actually figure out what's happening, right? Your brains sync up together. So you are thinking the same thoughts, they can actually prove this now, right? Your hearts get a mini tune-up. So it's good for your biology when you share these positive moments of connection with another human being, right? And lastly, that when you feel this, you have a motive to invest in the well-being of another human being. So what does this mean? You share a positive moment. Something happens under your conscious awareness, right? So what's happening in your body and your brain, we can't really see. So that's happening, and that leads us to feel more goodwill towards the another person and to want to give them more and to want to love them more. Does that make sense? So these three things, right? And so here's the thing, when she says that it doesn't, there's a lovely quote which I read years ago which made so much sense. It says that love is not like a stone just sitting there. Love is like bread. It needs to be made and remade every single day. Okay? So, and by the way, Dr. Gottman, who many of you have heard me talk about many times, who's the grandfather of research about couples and about family relationships, he has another mantra, right? He says that the secret to building love and staying in love over long term is not some grandiose thing. It is small things often. So it's little things. And this, again, is exactly what she's saying, right? So what that means is, and why this is so important to talk about, couples today especially have set the standard or the bar very high. I don't know, but proposals are a thing now, right? Because it has to be Instagram worthy. Right? So it has to be something that is grandiose and, I don't know what, can you tell me what are some of the things that people do what is one of the most outlandish things that you have heard? Going up to the CN Tower and proposing or writing. I've even heard of writing in the sky, hiring. Please don't do it. It's such a waste. No, not only such a waste, but it's so bad for the environment, come on. So please don't do that. Don't let your children do that either, right? So, okay, going up on the CN Tower is still okay. But, the idea is that when we are doing these grandiose things, it actually has zero predictive value for how happy your relationship is going to be. What does matter is the small little things that you do every single day, right? So, now obviously, coming back to the idea of Muwaddah, the highest expression of love is when you are loving for his sake. Right? And why is this important to remind us? Because, anyone who has been married or in a relationship for a long time knows that there are times when you don't feel like it. You don't feel like doing those little things. And when you remind yourself that actually Muwaddah is an act of worship, that's what it is, right? So, what it says is that that it is also a sunnah of the prophets, right? There's a beautiful hadith from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. It was within the character of the prophets of Allah to show affection towards their spouses and to express their love for them, right? So the idea that just feeling is not good enough. You actually have to do something to express to the other person how you feel. So how do we do that? That's the $1 million question, right? So, there's many, and all of us here have heard about love languages. Anyone who hasn't? Okay, good. So, you don't know? Okay. So, love languages, basically, to put it very briefly, is, the concept has become very popular recently, right? It simply means that everyone has a different way of expressing and feeling love. And what means love to you may not mean love to me. So what Dr. Gary Chapman, who is the one who came up with this idea, he says that people only have 5 love languages. You can either do acts of service, you can spend time with each other, you can say kind words, you can show physical affection, or you can give gifts. So among these things are your love languages, right? Very interestingly, it was really amazing that Islam has a hadith on every single one of them. But it goes much further, okay? So what are some of the love languages of Islam, okay? And there's many, like I actually came up with maybe 12 or 14, but today, inshallah, let's focus on very few. The first thing is a positive attitude. What does a positive attitude mean and why is it so important? Imam Ali alayhi salam said, cheerfulness is the cause of love. So simple, right? So again, sometimes we do feel grumpy, right? And the idea is to remind ourselves that when we have a positive attitude, then it is much easier. So here's the thing. One is that we express love for our spouses, right? But I always think of it also, let's make it easy for them to love us, because and by the way, when you read the hadiths, we really don't hear this too often from the mimbar. But it's really equal. Whatever we have to do, the husbands have to do more, if not equal, right? So, and we really don't hear it. But the idea is that let's start with ourselves, number one, and let's make it easy for them to love us, okay? So cheerfulness, and there's another a bit scary hadith which says, any woman who says to her husband that she has not seen any good from him, then she has fallen in her credibility and she has voided her acts of worship. What does this mean? So it means that a positive attitude is so important because sometimes we get critical. I don't know about you, but some days like everything seems not nice, right? And in those days, when we go on and on and on at our families, we're not easy to love. Really. I always think of it like trying to hug a porcupine. It's not easy. It's not pleasant, right? So, that's one thing. The second thing is personal grooming and self-care. It seems so basic, but sometimes we dress up only to go out, right? And we'll put on everything. We'll put on perfume. We'll wear nice clothes. But the idea is that at home, we may be smelling like onions or whatever. And Islam puts a lot of emphasis on self-care and especially pleasant smelling. It's very, very important. But very interestingly, it puts a lot of emphasis for men to groom themselves as well. There are so many ahadiths which say that you don't like your women to be unkept, so why are you presenting yourself like that to women? There's another one which I thought was really interesting where he said that this is a companion by the name of Hassan ibn Jiham, and he said, I saw Imam Ali alayhi salam who had dyed his hair. I asked if indeed he had dyed his hair. He said, yes, adornment of man for the sake of his wife helps her keep her chastity. Women who deviate from the path of chastity do so due to the carelessness and faults of their husbands. Imam Ali then stated, "Do you like to see your wife untidy?" I replied, "No." Then he added, "She thinks just as you do." Isn't that so modern? You know, we, in Islam, somehow we have got the idea that men have it, you know, that they have all the power and we have all the responsibility. Really, it's not like that. The reason why, obviously, we talk about our own responsibility is because this is who's here, right? And it's no point talking about somebody else's responsibility because we can't do anything about it. Another thing, believe in and support your spouse. So there's a lovely narration from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You know, when he used to, like Bibi Khadija was the love of his life. You know, everyone knew that. And when he talked about that, this is what she said. She believed in me when everyone else disbelieved in me. When they belied me, she trusted me. When no one would help me, she helped me with her money. Allah gave me children from her and denied me children from any other woman. Right? So, you know, a modern way to think of it is don't side with the enemy. If your spouse is narrating to you something, you know, very often we go straight into problem-solving mode, right? So if they're saying, you know, my boss is so-and-so, what do we normally say? We become very helpful, isn't it? We say, you know, but you've been going late to work. But this has been happening. And but, you know, try harder, do this. We immediately give them solutions on how they should behave. That's not trusting your spouse. You know, especially for men, being trusted is probably the number one thing that they need from their spouses, right? What does that mean? You know, women, especially, you know, in the West, we sometimes tend to become a little bit of a control freak, right? So let's take an example. When we're driving, do we do sometimes backseat driving? You're driving too fast, you take the wrong turn. You know, it's these little things that wear down the relationship, right? So it's very small, but what does it show, you know, to the man? And, you know, because I've seen both sides of the picture, like in the sense I hear from both sides, it's those little things that tell a husband that my wife does not trust me. She does not feel safe with me. She does not trust me to be in the car. To be at the helm of even a car, forget the family, right? Okay, what else? Acts of service. Acts of service means what? You know, there's a lovely hadith which I forgot to write down actually, but it goes something like that. When a woman picks up anything in the house and puts it where it belongs, she gets sawab. Can you imagine decluttering? It's like gold, you know. So the idea is whenever we're doing something for the other person, sometimes we think that we're being taken advantage of, no one's appreciating me. But the amount of blessings that Allah has kept in each act of service that we do for other human beings, right? Attempting to serve and please her husband well is a form of jihad for a woman. There's one hadith. And another one, which I love this. A husband is rewarded by Allah and acquires a high status when he performs the act of placing a morsel of food in his wife's mouth. And that is, he feeds her with love. Okay. So, lots of other things, right? Words of affirmation, support. By the way, you know, one of the things, what research shows is a key to a lasting marriage is to have emotionally intelligent husbands. Okay, what does that mean? Is to have somebody who is a bit self-aware, who, you know, takes responsibility and all of that. And when I was, you know, trying to find ahadith on these, there are so many ahadith on compromising. You know, compromising with the wife to the extent that a husband should not even say oof to his wife. Now, we hear this a lot with parents, right? But has anyone heard this before? Okay, right? We never hear these things. The thing is that, why am I telling you this? You can't do anything about it, and please don't give your husbands a hard time. That's not the intention. Like I usually do a disclaimer, and last majlis I forgot to do one, right? So I was talking about mothers, and nagging was the topic. And so many women came up to me and said, my daughter was here and she kept on nudging me, and now I'm going to be in trouble. And I said, I'm so sorry, because I always give this disclaimer that you are not allowed to use anything you learn today to give anyone else a hard time, right? The idea is that we need to start with ourselves. And we can train our sons, right? So we do have some influence over there. So, okay, two more. One is stress-reducing conversations. Again, this is completely aligned with research, right? What research shows is that when the first few moments of the time when you're together in the evening, so say you both, like either you've both been at work or one person's been at work, like when you get together, the first 5 minutes and the first 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, is what sets the tone for the whole evening. We know that, right? So if somebody comes home in a bad mood, the whole evening is likely to be ruined, right? A stress-reducing conversation is simply taking a few minutes to talk to each other about the day, to reduce stress. That's literally it. And this is what we mean by don't side with the enemy. So if somebody is telling you about your day, I had a bad day or had a good day or whatever, and we start giving them advice, it doesn't become a stress-reducing conversation anymore. It actually increases stress, right? So there's this really lovely story where there was a man who came to the Prophet ﷺ and informed him about his wife's beautiful conduct, where she welcomes him home pleasantly, and on finding him depressed, calms him down by saying that if his concern is due to the worldly matters, then not to worry, because it is in Allah's hand. And if his concern is regarding the hereafter, then may Allah make him more concerned about it, as it may help him concentrate on his tawakkul. After hearing this, the Prophet said, there are some people on this earth who work solely for Allah, and your wife is one of them. She will be rewarded half of a martyr's reward. Right? So the idea that when we are connecting with another human being and using them, in this day and age, this whole idea of independence, right? That we don't need anyone else. This is a very common idea. It's very false, by the way. Extremely false. Why? We're not created to live alone, and we're not created to be independent. We are created to be interdependent. So a lot of what happens in our lives can be healed within our relationships if we use them the right way, right? And the last thing I'd like to talk about is, what is called the secret weapon of a long-lasting and happy relationship is to make repairs. What does that mean? So very often, no matter how much you know, like I have a therapist in my head, right? I say things which I regret later. Mm-hmm. The idea is when you come back, how quickly can you come back and apologize and make repairs, right? So I just love this little narration. It is so beautiful. Why? Because it is so playful. So the Prophet ﷺ said, the best of your women is the one who, upon seeing her husband's anger, tells him, I submit to your will. Sleep will not pass over my eyes until you become content with me. Isn't that beautiful? Because, and the way I always think of it is that, there's this grumpy guy, right? And there's this woman who's basically flirting. Can you imagine saying to your husband, I'm not going to sleep. I won't do anything till you calm down, right? So there's a little bit of humor. There's a little bit of, it's basically a repair, right? Now, again, humor is a very, very, what happens, like when a couple is sitting in my office, right, and they're going through a really challenging time, if they can still laugh, if they can still share jokes, that's a really good sign. Because what happens is when we're in conflict or when things happen, then we lose that. Things start becoming very heavy. We're not able to laugh at ourselves or at each other, not at each other, please don't laugh. But you know what I mean, right? If you can make light of things, even conflict, then you are in very good shape. So keep that alive, like keep that little sense of humor. There's another hadith which says playfulness, right? That a man should leave all his seriousness outside the house. Inside the house, he should be like a child, playing, okay? So, and there's another one, by the way, which says, I guarantee a house in Jannah to the one who gives up arguing even if they are in the right. Okay? It's not easy. When it's really not easy. But again, what's our aim? What's our aim? If our final aim is the pleasure of God in Jannah, then is it just not worth it to just swallow your ego just for that 1 minute and be the first one? And again, if you have this sense of lightness, playfulness, right, cheerfulness, then it does become easy. Because again, remember, what is the standard of love in Islam? Sometimes when we get married, like and by the way, I have to say this as often as I can, when your children are getting married, please make sure that the speakers know not to make fun of marriage. Please do not allow them to use the occasion that is being celebrated to diss the institution of marriage. Do you know what I'm talking about? Every single time we go to a wedding, they start out by some ridiculous joke about marriage, about how tough it is. And if, believe me, we think it's not a big deal. But this is our consciousness. Our consciousness is that it's hard. Our consciousness is you've lost your freedom, the woman's in charge now, you're going to be in trouble. You know what I mean? Stop it, please. So all of us can start, whoever, most people are married here. When your kids are getting married, make sure you tell the speaker, no jokes about marriage. There's many things to laugh about. Life is very funny, I believe that, but not what you're coming to celebrate, okay? So the standard in Islam is what? Rabbana hablana min azwajina wa zurriyatina qurrata ayunin. Qurrata ayunin means you're so happy that you have tears in your eyes. That the people around you, your spouses and your children, and it includes both, spouses and children, are the delight of your eyes. That's the standard. It's not meant to be so hard and so heavy and okay, now I'm just stuck. It's not meant to be like that. And it's up to us. If we practice Muwaddah, the art of growing love in our own homes, then inshallah we can have a peaceful home and we can be a joy. So before we get up, let's all make an intention, right? You don't have to share it, but just make an intention that you will do something today to grow love in your home.